when it comes to the God's Word. I constantly stand in utter amazement of its greatness and the accuracy with which God's Word is set forth in the Bible. In the last session, we talked about man's dominion. When God originally formed, made, and created man, He gave man dominion over all of His creation. God gave man the under rulership under Him. Man was supposed to be in control and operate everything upon this earth according to God. Now, all of this stuff you read about, and some of you have read about, some of you have had to study, that it talks in Genesis about 4 different writers, authors they call them, to Genesis, the J, the E, the P, the D, writers of, that's all a bunch of hogwash. They're all theories. Like the arguments, the cosmological argument for the existence, the theological, all of those different arguments for the existence of God are just so much waste of time. God exists, argument or no argument, doesn't make any difference. Now, when God originally formed, made, and created man, He formed his body, He made his soul, and He created spirit within him. That spirit within him gave him a contact with God. For God is what? Spirit. And everything people has to stay in its category. I'm right now in this class and teaching you this. Man, if you can just sit and follow logically what I'm going to show you from God's Word and put all of this together, it will fit like a hand in a glove, and it'll give you answers to questions that nobody ever had. They just guess about it. You will have the answer. And it's so simple. Why others can't see this, even without the Bible, I don't know why they can't see it. Because it's just so axiomatic, so simple. God is spirit. He can only talk to what He is. Everything has to stay in its category, people. Like the natural body, the physical body has to be fed on what? Physical food. That's right. The physical body needs physical food. So, the spirit of man needs soul food. But the Spirit of God needs God food. That's why when we ultimately get way further along in the class, by the laws of sheer logic, speaking in tongues, which is God, Spirit speaking to your spirit, would have to feed what? Now, if you want to get big and fat spiritually, what do? You eat. You eat spiritually. If you want to get big and fat the other way, what do? Same laws. Right. This body and soul man, does he have a head? We heard this afternoon about man put on your head. Has a head right up there above your shoulders. That's what that oblong thing is, or circular, whichever way it looks. Inside of it you have some brain cells. Mind. This man of body and soul, does he have a mind, a head? Does the man of body and soul and spirit have a head? Is the spirit the head? No. That's right. Now this is very wonderful and very unique. Just remember what I've said. Things in the senses world can be known by the body and soul man. You want to grow, you want to thrive physically, the body and soul man want to thrive physically, you eat physical food. If you want to understand mathematics, you put it into your mind. You study it. Put it up in your mind. If you want to understand the things of the Spirit of God, you've got to have spirit. God can't talk to your head. God can only talk to what He is. And God is what? Spirit. And originally when God formed and made and created man, He put man so-called in God's category. Whenever God wanted to dial him, he could talk to him on his spiritual telephone. For man had what? And whenever man wanted to know something, he reached up into Daddy's cookie jar, as I call it. And there, he being spirit, he could talk to God any time of the day or night. That's how Adam was so smart. You know, he named all the animals, and even to this day, those animals that he named, even their characteristics are manifested in the name he gave to them. Way back centuries and centuries and thousands of years ago. How did he get so smart? He didn't graduate from a university in the United States. Well, he had what? And he had the connection with God, who's the all-smart. That's right. Whenever he wanted to know something, he'd do what? Reach up to Daddy's cookie jar. And if God wanted him to know, he'd tell him. To his mind, but to his what? That's right. That's why this class is so shocking to people. Most of them never come out of the shock for about 15 or 20 years. Because the logic of it is so fantastic that when I finally finish on this thing, I'm going to show you that you've got the same spirit in you that Adam had. Only in Adam it was upon a what? In you it's unconditional. In you it's unconditional. In Adam it was upon a condition. And that condition was stated in Genesis chapter 2 verses 16 and 17. Remember? Boy, you see, if it's true what I'm saying, you're just going to have to stay here this week to find out. Read it for yourself. But if it's true what I'm saying, boy, the church or the body has lived so below par, P-A-R, has lived so below par that it's almost unbelievable. How long are we going to allow the adversary to defeat God and his wonderful Son, Jesus Christ? If the Word's right, then we have what the Word says we are, what the Word says we are, will be what the Word says will be. And the only way to learn to walk for God, people, is the same way you learn to walk physically. Walk. Walk. That's right. Right. And physically, all walking is falling. That's all walking is. That's right. Just watch me. I'm going to walk. Now, what stops me from going flat on my nose? The next step. What about the next one? See? Stops me from falling. That's all. Walking is nothing but falling and catching yourself before you go on your nose. Now you just listen me out, because this is so simple spiritually too. A little baby, when it first starts walking, what happens to it? You bet your life. But does it stay down? It gets what? Back up. And it strengthens its legs, its muscles in its legs. And then finally, that little baby starts to walk without what? And yet sometimes it'll run, hit something that's a little out of order, and it'll still go on its what? That's right. People, honestly, do you spank the baby because it falls? Do you say, well, look, I wish I never had you born? You're always falling on the floor? But people, isn't that what we've done to each other spiritually? Somebody's a new spiritual baby, just born again of God's Spirit. And from that day on, we expect them to do everything perfectly, never make a mistake, never have a bad thought, give up all their chewing tobacco and all the rest of the stuff. We expect that perfection in one day. Why don't we learn to walk? Why don't we love people into walking? That's what a mother and father do to a little child. Why can't we be that honest with God's people?